Quickly, anyway, my background doesn't matter. What I'm going to talk about is, I'm trying to see the way people create any website. So web means it's a web app or anything, or let's say you're creating a web ERP for that, right? Or identity of a merchant. So let's just focus on the fact that there's a brand and he wants to get an online identity. Now, whether that brand can as well be as a student working, in a college who wants to create a website of his own to get some ROI out of it, or an employee organization who creates his LinkedIn profile for that sake, or let's say he's a rock star freelancer, he needs an identity. Businesses need websites. There are tons of people need websites. So how do you build something that stands for the next few years, right? Usually what happens is you build a website, after 2 years it gets obsolete. How many of you experienced that? You build a website, the technology becomes obsolete, what you build, right? You have experienced it. Things what you build today becomes obsolete. So what are the basics of, what are the basic things that you should keep in mind while you build an online identity so that it works for the next forthcoming years, right? That's what I'm going to focus on. So of course, since I'm trying to tell what should we do in the future, we should look at the past and see what are the issues that are there with websites today, right? The first thing, 1 million SMEs out there in India. And any guesses, out of the 51 million SMEs, how many of them have any kind of digital presence? Let me expand the thing, right? Any kind of digital presence as in, they can have a website, they can have a presence on an India Mart where they have a website from India Mart, they might have their own website. How many merchants do you think have any kind of online presence in India? Out of 51 million? No? 1 million. Right? So less than 1 million people have any kind of online presence. And guess why, right? Today if you go to an SME or merchant, especially in Bangalore, you will find merchants having a typical static website. For them it's like, if you have traveled in train, right? You have seen people who throw their handkerchief from the window and say, "Ye mera seat hai," right? So online website has been typically like that, right? Kya rumal fek do, mera website ban gaya. They actually do not see value in it. The retailer might see value in going to his store every single day, but he really doesn't see value in his website. He would pay that 10,000 rupees or whatever, 5,000 rupees or 20,000 rupees or 1 lakh rupee, and then he forgets over time, right? Because it doesn't lead to anything. It doesn't lead to discovery, right? And if my website is not adding value to me, what's the point in having that asset, right? So let's look at what happens. Today, typically, this is what the entire industry does when it comes to SEO as a word. And by the way, the SEO word is a scam, right? Let me be very clear. Discovery is not a scam. SEO as a word is a scam because you will not find Google employees standing up and saying, "This is how you game my system," right? If you could game the whole search engine optimization, then Google will absolutely go for a toss. Google's search's biggest value prop in the market is, if you are a consumer looking for something, I will give you the most relevant and the most accurate search result, which cannot be gamified. Otherwise, all these big brands, Macy's, Walmart, and all these guys, they would be winning the search market. How would anybody, let's say you are the Zomato founder, Dipinder Goyal, who wants to start Zomato, how would you ever stand a chance of getting there and building your own brand, right? So, a lot of people in the market try to gamify it. Anybody saying that, "Hey, I'm guaranteeing SEO," is bullshitting you, right? So, this industry is completely created out of a marketing fad. There's nothing called SEO, there's something called discovery. How do you get discovered online? That is the only logical thing, right? And today in the market, you'll find people talking about off-page optimizations, people talking about on-page optimizations, and blah, blah. Off-page optimizations as in, backlinking, those age-old things, right? In blog, you give your links to your website. And Google's pursuit is always to, you would have heard of the Panda update, the Pigeon update, right? All those updates are to stop people from gaming the system, which is the off-page optimization. Because the real magic happens, which I'm going to talk to you next, and the basic on-page optimization, that, there was a trend in between that have H1 tags. Populate that meta tag of keywords and you're done. Populate the meta tag, that doesn't care. Do you think just by, if I add in my meta tag keywords, best coder in Bangalore, best coder in Hyderabad, I'll become the best coder in Hyderabad? No, right? If Zomato, just in the meta tag or keywords, it just tells me, we are the best reviews platform for restaurants, you'll get discovered. No, that's wrong. That is just an indicator about what you can do. That is not discovery or that is not SEO. It is just hygiene factors. Those things help you. Like for example, me wearing a jacket helps me get past the security guys. Otherwise, thinking, interview right? So these are the hygiene things. End of the day, if I get into the room with a jacket, if I talk nonsense, everybody's going to walk out, right? So it's the real content that matters. The real content inside, right? So what really matters is, this. So we call it a blind man's content strategy, right? Whichever website you build, many people make a flash website. Many people have a website, you land on the website, there's a huge ass image out there. And talking about the brand. That is of no use in terms of discovery. Guess how people today find you, right? They either go to Facebook, they go to Google, they go to whatever, they search for you. You need to be part of the search. The search today happens on text. A mobile phone is going towards voice, but if you look at when you talk to your Google, it converts your voice to text, and that is what is searched. Google image search has not picked up so much. People don't drag an image and search, that's functionally, but that doesn't work much. People primarily search in text. So whenever you build any website, you need to first, let's say you're a website developer, you need to, and whether you evaluate whether it's a good website or not, close your eyes and ask the other guy to read out the content on the site. If you are able to visualize the entire picture in your mind, what the guy wants to convey, that's the right strategy. That is the right content strategy. So it should be a blind man's update. I'll give you an example. For example, Fast Track was one of our customers. Fast Track had be trendy and be sexy. That was a hashtag, right? They would upload a super cool image about the goggles, and they would have be trendy. Now, here, be trendy has no meaning. That image, you need to talk about where Fast Track sunglasses to look trendy. That content attracts search traffic. Just be trendy is a great marketing campaign. It is not a great communication strategy. It is not a great content strategy for you to get discovered. So hence, just moving quickly, it should be a blind man's content strategy. Next, okay, now that you have content, how the hell do you lay out the content on the website? Very, 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 very important, right? So for example, if you, the best one I'll give you is ndtv.com. You read a Narendra Modi article. In the recommended news, you'll find related articles about politics. You will not find about Bollywood there. Well, Bollywood is trending in India, but you will find relevant articles. This content link structure is super important. Many developers deprioritize this. For example, you go to WordPress, you take a WordPress instance, you'll create posts, and you leave it to WordPress to figure out the tag cloud and the link structure of the website. Nobody really visualizes how exactly a website is a graph. There's a node, there's a home page, it connects to another page, this guy connects to another page, this guy connects back to the home page. You have to visualize the entire graph structure. It's a bit technical, but then you have to understand the way content is linked between each other. If a user is reading content A, what is the next content he's going to read? Always focus on that. That is key for discovery. With that, I'll give you one later. Third, explain your goddamn content also to Google or to bots. Because we build content, we build the content structure keeping the user in mind. A user is a human being. The guy who's deciding your relevancy is a bot. The bot decides whether to site ko dikhane ka nahi hai, right? And then the human comes to your site. You optimize the content structure for a human. You forgot about the bot who's going to listen to you, who's going to first crawl you, right? There's something called schema.org. Do check it out. So that is the dictionary of the internet, right? For example, today if you hear a new word in English, you would go to the Oxford Dictionary or something to understand the meaning of it. Similarly, schema.org is the dictionary of internet, which Microsoft, Google, Facebook, not Facebook, Yandex, and all these guys came to and defined a vocabulary. It's humongous. For whether it's an ice cream store, a manufacturing guy, a local business, an employee, a student, a thing, a postal address, anything, every goddamn thing is defined in a schema.org. So whenever you write, for example, you see the slide of mine, right? You have a title there, you have a few points, and you have a logo there. As a human, it makes sense to us. But as a bot, it's just a set of strings. So you have to explain the bot that this is the title, these are the bullet points, and that's the logo. You have to semantically explain your content to the bot. So make sure that you do that. Otherwise, those are the best practices you need to do for discovery. Load time and responsive, very, very important, because it's very important that whenever a search engine or any referral site is sending a guide to your website, and if your website loads slow, the users will bounce off, number one. Number two, imagine how many websites are there in the world? Guess, 1 trillion? Can I assume? How many websites are there in the world today?
14 crore?
14 crore, थोड़ा उसमें बताओ, foreign number. वो conversion में दिक्कत होता है मेरे को. Can you tell me in that international number format? 14 crore is how much?
2 million.
2 million?
No, not a 2 million.
In the world, there are more than 1 trillion goddamn websites. They're huge. Imagine the number of guys parking domains. Right? Don't think that only Anity is a website. You're thinking how many people use website Anity. Imagine the whole parking industry. People who try a dummy website and sell it. The number of websites is humongous. It's 1 trillion. Now, I'll tell you a problem. Google today starts crawling a website. If your website crawl time is 1 second, that means they take, on an average, they have to spend 1 trillion seconds to crawl the internet. Right? So hence, load time is super important, not only for the user, but for the bot also. Because the bot will not spend so much time downloading an asset from your website to understand it. Because for them, every millisecond makes a huge impact. Because Google's best thing is, I'll give you the latest information. If they don't crawl the internet faster, they will not be able to serve the data right. So hence, load time is super critical. Now you'll find Google also pushing that thing of, hey, your site should be faster and all that, because it helps them reducing the cost of bots. The infrastructure they have to crawl your websites. And of course for the user. User thing, I think everybody understands. If I'm a user, your website takes more than 6 seconds, I'll get lost. Right? Thanks to Facebook, thanks to Twitter, thanks to Google.com, they have trained us that things should be fast. How many of you use Google.com for internet connection checking? Internet kaam kar raha hai ki nahi kar raha hai, you open Google.com, right? Why? Because that's the fastest goddamn thing on the planet. That has become the speed test also for us these days. Right? So load time is very important. And of course, that leads to responsiveness in your mobile or across devices. If you are a customer who understands that people are coming on mobile, your site cannot do junk on mobile phone, right? So not only the load time, but optimizing for that device. Understand that guy on the device has a 3G connection or a Geo 4G connection, which may or may not work, right? So I have to struggle, man. Roaming turns will work. So a responsive site, a site optimized for load on the device is also equally important, because today bots are of two types. One is mobile bot, one is desktop bot. If you look at Google, there's a mobile bot, alag se aata, there's a desktop bot, which crawls different, right? Because even while crawling, they crawl your mobile asset. They don't crawl your desktop asset. That's how the bots are becoming smarter. Social reach, super important. Stop doing this off-page optimization nonsense. Stop doing the off-page optimization. And you going and putting a link on a blog is absolutely irrelevant. But going and putting the link on your Facebook page is super important. Going and putting that link on your Twitter page is super important. Why? Because, of course, they're big guys. Now, search bots have started respecting Facebook data and Twitter data. Over the last few years, that has happened, right? Earlier, when you have a Twitter widget on your site, that data, Google never read it. Now, only exception as a Facebook, Twitter, and GMB plugins, right? Those plugins, though the data loads asynchronously, but they get indexed by the crawler. So having a good social reach is super important, because now, of course, Google decides which asynchronous, let's say I design asynchronous plugin, Google's never going to read that, right? But it's a Facebook plugin, right? So data which loads after the page is loaded, Google respects that. So the more social reach you have, the more number of people sharing your link actually will give you help in discovery, even in Google. The social reach is very important. The content you post on your website must be also posted on a let's say your WordPress site, you create a post. Make sure that the same post is shared on Facebook page, same post is shared on not Instagram, or Twitter, so that you get the maximum reach. Very important for your discovery. Sixth, this is a fad going on that I want an e-commerce site, and I want people to pay money on my website. I don't know why. But then, yeah, because of that, secure channels are very important. If you have any site which has product displayed, where you have the name called buy now or sale inquiry, you must be HTTPS site. Otherwise, the relevance is low. Google will never send a traffic which has a buying intent to a site that is not secure. Right? So these are the only 6 things. If you keep in mind, you will nail the discovery. You do everything else, it might work for industry, it will not work after 6 months. Because, for example, let's say you pick up, let's say grocery as an industry, online grocery. Online grocery is just getting started. Earlier, before 1 year, nobody was searching for online groceries. We used to go and talk to the dukanwala, right? Now is the time you can absolutely gamify the system. Because Google algorithm was not optimized for that category. Right? Now if you do all these blackhead hacks, it might work. After a year, then the moment it becomes mainstream, it will stop working. So when a new category is born in the market, it has a benefit of being new, right? So these 6 things always be responsible. Because if you follow this 6 strategy, you're not gamifying the system. You are being honest to the user and to the bot. Remember that you have to be honest for both, bot and the user both. Next, how many of you have struggled that once you have customers, right? Obviously you will have built site for customers. Once you deliver a site to a customer, he will be like, ho gaya kaam. He will not really even spend time with you to see how do I improve it further. Because he thinks when you come for improvement, you are trying to steal money from him. Right? If you are trying to make a change in the website, you are trying to fleece money from him. Right? So that's a fundamental flaw in the industry. after you launch a website, it is not iterated enough for conversions. Why? Many times you will see the merchant will tell you, "Ha, mera phone number laga do. Put my phone number, put my email, put a form and I'm done." You have got them one call to action. You are thinking that all the 100,000, let's say you have a traffic of 100,000 users, right? You expect all the 100,000 users to either just call you or email you or just fill up the form. What if the guy is even not able to understand the hell you've written on the site? What about that guy? And he's in the middle of the night talking to you, or maybe early morning, or when your customer support is not there, right? So the silver bullet approach of converting all the traffic to leads is absolute nonsense. You need to iterate, right? For example, you must have more, I don't know more than one, but at least more than 2 CTAs on your site, right? One of the best CTAs that I have seen work is provide a personalized service, which is nothing but if you can, please put that Zopping plugin or a chat plugin. And if you are technically a bit advanced, please put a chatbot. Because the kind of customers we have today in India, the inventory is limited. I'm not about Flipkart or all, right? When you go to an SME, the inventory is limited, the services provided is limited, and there's a set of questions everybody knows what it's going to ask. So you can easily use platforms like ChatFuel, you can use Anna, the Chatteron, there's so many chatbots happening today, right? Put a chatbot on the site. That's a new trend, right? Because the users who do not get convinced your content, they at least will talk to somebody, right? It's super important. If your customer is not again telling, sir, it is important. And then there is a thing called there's an Israeli chat plugin also, which is actually free, by the way. So you can actually use that. Anybody knows anything? Yeah, Talk.to, right? Yes.
Don't you think it's works in a negative way as well? Because normally my experience is when I visit to some site and I see that bot, instead of reading the content, I just ask my question and I won't get any answer. So
that is a negative experience. If you have a chat plugin and it doesn't work, the guy is gone. Do not ever dare to put a chatbot if you can't serve the customer. It's like me saying that I'll put my phone number and nobody's going to answer the phone. Right? What's the point in putting a phone number, right? So every call to action has the same, it's a double-edged sword. You put a call to action, but if the user doesn't get the right experience, he'll bounce off immediately. He'll not even consider anything else. So that is common across all CTS. Phone number, email, your query form. Let's say you submit a query form and that time your server failed. The submission failed. He will not try again. He's going to bounce off. Right? So what I'm trying to say is, for you to get maximum ROI of a website, you cannot have a silver bullet approach that, okay, I will only put my phone number and email because that is safest. I can take my time. That is wrong. Today the user doesn't care. Users are getting smarter. So chatbot is a great way to increase your conversion rates, as long as of course you can handle the traffic. Right? So hence you have the offline mode, online mode. Hence the fact that chatbots are coming in, and chatbots are disrupting the customer support vertical. Chatbots are not disrupting selling a product. Chatbots are today replacing customer support. When a user has a query about a product, the query about the price of a product, or about a delivery time, that's when chatbots are coming in. So you got to play a hybrid model, have an automation and manual chat. Right? That's how you have to handle the scenario. Or one better solution is, do not show, let's say your customer is sleeping, right? Do not show the chat plugin at night. Right? So that way the user experience is constant. Right? So whenever you can serve it, show the chat plugin. Whenever you know that business hours is off, do not show the chat plugin. Do not tell that I'm offline. Do not even show that feature to the consumer. Right? So that is the strategy you have to execute. So making sure that you can convert the consumer from all the fronts and not just phone call and email. Third, everybody skips this part, right? 90% of the websites are not optimized for peak loads. This is not a burning issue, but this is an issue for people who, let's say, are bloggers or are seasonal vertical. For example, education. Education, if you look at the search volume, really spikes up in summers, because that's the summer vacation period and all that nonsense. Commerce, local commerce, really spikes up in Dashera time, right? Now, and that's where when you go to the customer, he's stuck. He doesn't want to invest so much of money and invest in infrastructure, which is giving that value add for 1 year. He doesn't want to have a downtime in the peak load, but yet he wants to pay the most optimal price, right? Today the limitation in the industry is, the entire website industry, 90% of the website industry is based on a server-based architecture, right? This is absolutely wrong. It needs to be a serverless architecture. The moment you have a server which is hosting your asset, it is constrained by the power of the server. How many of you know what is a service and what is an application? Can anybody differentiate between a service and an application?
Stateless?
Yes, which is, I said two, no? एक word में दो कैसे define होता है? So what's the difference in application and a service? Which one is stateless?
Service is stateless.
Stateless. Anybody else? What do you think an application is? And when I say an application and a service, an application nothing but how many of you want Windows, Microsoft Excel? Excel sheet में किसने काम किया है? Yeah, see? Everybody sleeping really? Excel sheet means मैं तो बताऊँ इतना नींद आ रहा लोगों को. I'm so bad, sir. Yeah, so if you look at Microsoft Excel is an application on your system, right? That application can only be accessed when I log into your laptop and double click on the icon, and the performance of the application is limited by the performance of your laptop. If you have a slow laptop, Excel is goddamn difficult to work on. And hence, Office 365 on the other hand, is Excel as a service. You can consume that very functionality from anywhere in the globe you want because it is right in front of you. It is accessible to you. So that is a service, whereas installing something is a application, right? In the website industry, it's a goddamn application. We go and put our files on a server. And every request that happens copies from the server and downloads it. It is not a service. Just by, don't think that anything you put on the cloud becomes a service. That's not, that's wrong. End of the day, website is constrained by that limitation of the hardware you're buying on the cloud, right? So move away from the server-based to a serverless architecture. I can talk about that long, how do you do that? But yeah, this is the new thing, right? Go to serverless architecture so that you only pay for what you use. That's the advantage of the serverless architecture. Only when your peak load happens, your costing goes up. When your peak load goes up, your costing automatically goes down. You do not waste any resource because there's no dedicated CPU or RAM and server space given to you. It is all allocated at the runtime in the serverless architecture concept. So yeah, website as a service is the next big thing, right? That's why the entire world will move. No more website, but website as a service. You've got to provide service to your customer. Not optimized for differential loading. This is a developer issue. This is not a business issue, this is a developer issue. For example, if it's a bad coder or he's just not giving time to it. For example, if you look at, this is facebook.com, right? I just did a network stack of facebook.com. Look at how many requests actually came from my memory disk. It did not go to the server at all. So the perceived performance of your site just skyrocketed. Look at how many of you use Gmail? No. So if you look at in Gmail, you click on the inbox, you click on drafts, the data comes really fast, right? It doesn't do a page reload, right? That is called differential loading. Like if you know, and that comes at a very early stage in your, when you plan to design a website, what are my common headers, what are my common footers, the way you handle your script files and CSS files, the common functionalities and the page-specific functionalities need to be different. And hence people like Facebook are able to do it, right? This is called browser caching. So what you should do is this. In your HTML code, figure out your common headers and footers. Always make sure that the code which never, even if your customer asks you, okay, मेरे को हर page में, अलग-अलग header चाहिए, say fuck off. Right? The customer doesn't know jack shit, right? Your header has to be common. Your footer has to be common across the website. Those things cannot be different for different pages, right? Second, your style sheets, your JavaScript. And see, if you're using plugins, if you're using templates to create websites, then of course this doesn't make any sense. Then you have to assume that the plugin or the template has the optimal code. But if you're writing a code, creating a website from scratch, that simply comes into play, right? So I'm taking from the industry standard point of view. So yeah, you optimize the style sheets, optimize the scripts. Just note down the third point. It is really difficult to explain. It's called immutable public caching. Just Google it. You will understand exactly how to do it, right? It's a header you set. And immutable was a thing brought in by Facebook, right? So check that out. So you not only have to do public caching, you have to do an immutable public caching. That's what you do. Fourth, if you enable a caching on the browser, let's say, and we'll go back. Facebook has this thing coming from my memory, right? From my hard disk. It is not coming from the server. Now, client asks you to put a new offer on the server. But then that offer is in the server. The browser, the data is coming from the user's browser, right? So you have to be smart enough to do cache invalidation. Like if I update a file, if I update my header CSS file, how does it get changed across the entire stack? This is the reason developers don't do it. Because that's where the challenge happens, right? So the various ways to do it, but then these are the four things you need. If you do it, your site will be perceived fast. I'm not saying it will go fast, because perceived fast means I open the site, I click on any other tab, it loads in half the time that the home page loaded. So people will think, okay, yes, site faster. पहले और कुछ तो हुआ नहीं हुआ. But after when they start interacting with the site, they think it is super fast. Like if you look at Facebook.com or Gmail, when you open it the first time, it takes time to load. After that, going in Gmail tabs is super easy, right? Hence it's called super fast. So it's a perceived thing, but make sure that you guys do it, differential loading. So those are the 4 issues that I thought I should highlight, that typical mistakes that people do and why the websites won't scale for the future, right? The typical mistakes. There are other Mr. Hygiene issues, I'm not covering that, but these are things that people miss out on. Nobody talks about it. So this is, I mean, today morning I sat and made the deck, by the way. So I was thinking that if I were at your position and then, I were to sitting in front of the customer, if I want to create a website, what do you think as an owner, what do you think the process I would go through to create a website that actually works? So this is one of the process that I built, right? First thing in my process starts with content. Do not start with a fucking design. Talk to your customer. What do you want to talk about on your website? Have a meeting on that, the web content. What will be the content on your website? That is the first thing you must note down. That is the first thing you have to be very clear in your mind. Content doesn't mean, okay, I'll upload my product catalog. That doesn't mean anything. I'll upload my set of bikes. Let's say I'm a bike rental company, I'll upload my set of bikes, which are the product I offer. As a services company, I'll upload my menu and my food items. You have to go to that level of accuracy. Just don't get swayed by the customer and look at e-commerce site chahiye. You know that, okay, I have a product thing, I have a services thing, that's bullshit. Figure out the exact content that you want to apply to your website. Second, once you know what the content is, second thing is, what is the content layout? If the guy, let's say I'll take this example, right? So, food wala. So it's a restaurant, right? If I'm seeing a Chinese item, uske baad you'll show the other Chinese recommended item. He's doing a Chinese starter, I would rather do a Chinese other main course because I know the guy is Chinese. The content link structure. Once you clear the content, you should, on a piece of paper, note down, okay, if the guy is in product A, that level of detail. A guy is in product A, what is the next thing I want him to see? You have to have a semi, link structure on a piece of paper designed beforehand, before even you start designing or start looking for a template or start downloading a theme. Because then you are clear that I need a, let's say WordPress, right? If you look at WordPress, things are so many types, right? There's a theme where you have the home page is a banner and a list of top 10 blog posts, and there's more, right? I can click on a blog post and go details. That's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is, you have this homepage, they have this featured blog, which has the maximum traffic, which has got business number of views, and then you have new posts, right? So figure out what is your content strategy. What do you want your user to see when he lands on the site? Do you want him to see the latest content? Do you want to see the most famous content? Do you want to see something else? Whatever. Decide the content link structure before you start even looking for a theme. Do not look at a theme and then decide your content strategy. That's wrong. That's where people fail, and that's why you keep iterating, discovering kaam nahi kar raha, SEO kaam nahi kar raha, all that nonsense happens. And this information, your customer will be very easily tell you, because you're not using the tech language here. You're asking, sir, kya content dalne ka? If the guy you're telling him this, what is the next thing he wants to hear? Because the merchant is very clear. When a customer walks into the store, he knows how to pitch which product. Right? Third, before you download the theme, before you download the template, I suggest download the static asset. So if you look at in WordPress, when you go to the theme library, you have this theme preview, right? Work on that first. Do not migrate your theme to your WordPress thing and then start working on it. If you want to develop from scratch, go to theme forest, go to a HTML template and download a static template. Customize the static template, hardcode all the data, because you already know what content he wants, you already know what content link structure you want. Customize that static asset with all hard coding, right? These are the set of products, these are the bikes. That's how the link structure will work. Oh, I missed something, right? Yeah. So second point in the content layout was the URL format. What my recommendation usually is, every content type needs to have its relevant URL format. You cannot, for example, if you're building a restaurant site, it cannot be ronak.com/products is your menu. It has to be /menu. Or let's say menu, let's say Chinese products. ronak.com/menu/Chinese starters. And then the Chinese starters come up. You really think through and customize the URL format based on the content type that you have. Because that is super important from bot point of view, not from user point of view. No user cares the fuck out of the URL form. Whatever you put in the URL, doesn't matter. But the bot looks at it. Because that gives an indication that what do I expect in this content. Right? So the URL format is super important. At a page level, not at website level. In WordPress, you have this concept of permalinks, where you set at the website level, but figure out a way to do it at a page level, at a content strategy level, right? Then once I think this step takes the maximum time. When you do the static HTML, send to the customer, he plays with it, that back and forth takes maximum time. Till that is done, do not even think about doing database and this dynamic website and all that nonsense. First convince your customer in a static website, right? With the right content strategy and the right content structure, so that he gets convinced on everything. Once you've done that, then you put efforts of converting static to dynamic. And that will in many ways, either use PHP, Node.js, whatever, blah, blah, if you're a full stack developer, or use a framework, like WordPress, Joomla, WooCommerce, whatever. So you can use either of the two. That's when you convert from static to dynamic. Guess what happens after this? Once you do that, you deliver the product to the customer, right? Then you should not do that. Then comes is, not SEO, the CMS. People think CMS is a byproduct of the framework you're using. Wrong. I mean, it is thought like that, but think about it, understand the customer, right? He is a bike manufacturer, or let's say a bike rental company. You give him a WordPress site. वहाँ पे लिखा होता है कि create a post. Right? You give him a WooCommerce site. It says add a product. It doesn't say add a bike. The CMS, so hence, I'm sure when you develop out-of-the-box CMS, you have to also train the customer how to use the freaking CMS. Right? Always make sure your CMS is aligned to the taxonomy of the business. If you really want your customer to use your product. Right? How many people have issues that you have given a full WordPress site or a Joomla site, which is customer can do it all, update all by himself, but he doesn't do it? How many of you have that issue? Right? Customer कुछ भी दे दो, कितना भी dynamic site हो, he will never freaking update the site. Right? That's a common problem across the industry because they don't understand. For them, it's an entry barrier. What is post? What if I do a mistake? Right? He understands, an ice cream guy understands ice cream flavors, pastries, cakes. He doesn't understand post, article, author. He doesn't understand all that nonsense. Right? So his CMS is as important as your website for the user. Right? We always ignore the CMS part. CMS is super important. Analytics. People again miss out this. This is usually what happens after 2 or 3 months of many developers. I'm not saying good developers do it, but many usually the middle of the curve developers, they will deliver the site and then oh sir, analytics wo GA ka dalni the bhul gaya, right? That should be there from day zero. From the very first traffic you get, your analytics should be enabled, right? You can use Google Analytics. PVIC is an open source. If let's say you're talking to a bank who doesn't want to use Google Analytics because Google Analytics stores the data in their server, and you can always use PVIC. You can say that okay, if you have a privacy issue, have on-premise deployment PVIC. It's open source, as powerful as Google Analytics, right? And of course, if you are a full stack developer, you want to do backend, analytics. How you have an AWS account on which you have deployed the site. You want to see how the assets of the AWS are used. Use New Relic, right? So that's a backend analytics and front-end analysis, Google Analytics and PVIC, right? But have the analytics before the delivery of your website, because analytics will actually help you understand how is your customer testing the product that you've given to him. So you need to have analytics on day zero. Next, once you're done with analytics, you're done with the CMS, that is when you should host and go live. Right? So figure out the hosting. I recommend that your website should be as a service. It absolutely depends on you and the customer. Because website as a service actually is the easier thing to do, a cheaper thing to do, but it's a difficult thing for a developer to understand. And also for the customer to understand. No customer is going to pay you extra money because you're saying, I'll give you website as a service. Right? Or no developer is going to earn extra salary because he can do that, right? But it is good for the customer. It will be cheaper for the customer. It will be a huge experience benefit for the user, the web visitor who's visiting the contact website. So that's the point of the website as a service. It will scale based on the behavior. It will scale based on the usage. So that's my recommendation of it. And then once you have the website live, do not start optimizing for the differential loading that I talk about. Do not start optimizing in the beginning. Once you have created the site, once you've created the dynamic site, because you might have used some plugins, right? You cannot think that, okay, while I design static site itself, I'll do my differential loading, right? Because you do not know how many plugins that the customer is going to ask you. I need a booking appointment engine, I need a payment gateway. You will have 10,000 plugins. Once everything is sorted, then look at your stack. Open the website, look at the network stack, and see what are the repeated requests that is going to your server. That is the scientific way of doing it. Do not do it by gut feeling. Right? Tease your science, look at the network stack, go to every page and figure out what are the URLs that is repeating across from page A to page B and manually cache them. There's cache engineer and all that, you do that. Once this is done, after going live, you do the differential loading, then you monitor and iterate. That is when you figure out, so your delivery of the website should not happen in 15 days, even though you can deliver. If you want to really give a good service to the customer for a website that works, tell him it takes 3 months. For me to give an identity it takes 3 months. Nothing happens overnight. You can use whatever WordPress and give it in a night. What will work for me is not one night effort. What will work for me is a 3 months effort, right? You deliver the product, then you monitor the product and see whatever you have built based on your gut feeling, how is that behaving in the market, right? Users coming, is he calling you? Is he clicking the chat? Is he emailing you? Is the form working? That iteration is super important. Otherwise, and hence website do not scale for the future, right? Because you have just put one-time effort and delivered to your customer. Nobody has really optimized it based on the actual traffic is getting. Till this state, till the differential loading state, everything was from the knowledge we had. It's only when it's live, you see the real traffic, that's when you get to know what CTA, what call to action works, what call to action doesn't work. So please take 3 months time if you want to do justice to your customer. If you want to injustice, then that's what it is. You can skip the entire step. Do it one step, download template, go live, and you're done. So yeah, that's our way of saying that this is what you should do. And what I want to talk about is this, right? A lot of people do not, sorry, I'll go back to this. A lot of people do not do all this. They just focus on a static prototype, convert to dynamic, CMS comes by the way, and deliver to the customer, right? Because, why? Because customer doesn't understand all this process. He's worried, in his mind the price is fixed. I'll give you 50,000 rupees, I'll give you 20,000 rupees, or I'll give you 90,000 rupees. His price is fixed. He doesn't care about the amount of effort you put in or the optimization you bring in, right? But then, if you're a guy who thinks about the society and you want to do the right thing, then you should do it on your own. But then your time of delivery increases, right? And that's why developers avoid it. So at Now Floats, that's what we thought we would do, right? How do I make a developer's life really simple so that he needs to worry about the design and the HTML. Rest, everything should be taken care of by the system, right? That is what we launched called Kitsune, right? Kitsune is a framework which does all the optimization that a developer should do. I mean, you can go to the dashboard and figure out what are the optimizations we do. You can also train your developers. There are 6 things or there are 10 things you should do. If he does it well and good. Like for example, I'll give you an example, right? Let's say you have a word, especially on a WordPress site. A WordPress site where there are some 10, 20 CSS files and JavaScript files that loads, right? The standard practice is ideally there should be one CSS and one JavaScript file. So there's a library called Gulp, which sort of merges all this JS files, CSS files and makes it one, right? Now, developer really doesn't do that, or else you cannot have, let's say your average developer salary is 30,000 rupees or 40,000 rupees. You don't expect that maturity for him to spend time in optimization, keeping in pace with how's the world moving, and using those optimization protocols. You don't expect that, right? So that was our aim for Kitsune, that how do I really simplify a developer's life who should only focus on HTML and the design of the site. So where is Kitsune today? As a framework, as I said, I'm a co-founder of Now Floats. At Now Floats, for the last 4 years, we have been trying to solve the problem statement of, if you are a retailer, how do I get you online and how do I get you discovered online, right? Without any customized website. It was a template, fixed template website, right? So we scaled that business from 0 to 200,000 merchants on the platform, right? And that is all built on Kitsune as a framework. So Kitsune as a framework has a hosting part, it has a programming language, it has a whole sort of things where your developer does not have to write a single line of server-side code. You can make a fully dynamic website, a fully optimized website with HTML as a tool. As long as you know HTML coding, Kitsune works. If you do not know HTML coding, Kitsune doesn't work. Kitsune, one of the reasons why we did not design a drag and drop. Kitsune is not a website builder. A website builder is where you drag and drop things and a website is out, right? Now I hate them. Why? Because you are saying to a developer that I will auto-create the logic. Now, logic is like art, right? Logic is not something which you can drag and drop and I'll automatically figure out the logic. I'm against that theory. So what happens, if you use any framework, the more plugins you add, the more themes you change, it becomes slower and slower in time, right? Because the auto-generated logic has become garbage at the back. Every layer you add, because there's logic A, add one more plugin, it becomes logic A plus logic B. You add a third plugin, it becomes logic A plus logic B plus logic C. Ideally, as a developer, you should have had the most optimized logic. It's just an aggregator of logics, right? So hence it doesn't work. It becomes slower and slower with time. Every plugin you add, it actually slows on the side. So hence, Kitsune, we decided that we will give all the access to developer as a HTML markup language. You can actually code using HTML. So you have all the control of your language. What happens in the backend. It's just that you don't have to worry about the server side. But you have absolute control of business logic using HTML coding. So we sort of power today 200,000 websites in India, and over the last 1 year, we have processed around 500 million requests. Because for us, at Kitchen the platform, it's not of the UI, right? UI is the innovation that you guys bring in. For us, it is that every request that is rendered out of the server, it matters to us because that has to be fast, optimized, it should not impact the user, all that nonsense happens. It should be compressed, it should be cached. So we have till date served 500 million requests through our platform, right? The platform works. And it works in terms of right from a static website, a customer who's getting maybe 1,000 visits in a month or no traffic in a month, to customers who get 1 million users in a month. Right? We have really tested this transfer sprint. Just to show you an example, this is one of our customer one-to-one solutions. Absolutely static site, the only dynamic part is the web form. Even this is part of Kitchen. Actually, you can open it on your phone and test how fast it is. Open it and go to the tabs, one-to-one-esolutions.com, and play with the UI, right? And see the effect of differential loading. You will absolutely notice the differential loading. Because if there's an internet problem here, the first loading might take time, but experience the differential loading, you'll be blown away with that. And this static website happens in like 5 minutes. You can add any junk code, upload it in Kitchen, something good comes out. Kitchen is not garbage in, garbage out. Kitchen is garbage in, good comes out. Right? So there's fundamental difference. We are not a typical server, which you take on the cloud, is garbage in, garbage out. If I put garbage on the server, when I download, only garbage comes out. There is no value add that a server on the cloud gives you. So we decided that hey, we should really optimize all the requests. Second, Wicked, right? The bike rental company is talking about. They're a startup from Bangalore. It's a dynamic site. They update their product catalog, they update the offers and all that nonsense, right? Even they are powered in Kitchen. VLCC, all the stores are powered in Kitchen. You can see the varied implementations of the language, right? And guess what? All these are dynamic sites where the developer used only HTML coding to make the site, right? So you have, as long as you do HTML, with Kitchen you can create even a web ERP. You can integrate a payment gateway writing one line of HTML code. If you want to use, for example, we have this algorithm where you give an update, we automatically give you the keywords for the update. It's a machine learning algorithm, right? Even that you can use using HTML. You say content.extract keywords, the system automatically extracts keywords and gives you as an array in HTML. So you have all the power at the HTML level to play with your algorithms, play with the data, right? How do you get started? If you're ever interested, you want to play with it, how do you get started? Just go to this website called getkitchener.com. There's a button called Get Started. Click on that button, log into your Gmail, and blah, blah, figure it out. That's how the dashboard looks like. I'll just show you this so that you don't get mesmerized here. Hey, what the fuck is this? This is how it looks like. Don't get intimidated with it. We keep improving on the UI part. The features, what we actually suggest, and you might not use Kitchen, but these are the features you should definitely remember in mind, that website developer today does not really optimize the site because after going through so many of hassles of to and from the customer, he doesn't have time to optimize, right? So by using, let's say you can use, okay, I'll tell you the other options also. You can use Cloudflare, you can use Google AMP. You can say, today when you take a server, you buy it for a month or you buy it for a year, right? We said that doesn't make sense. We by default everything on our platform is a service. So when you build a website on Kitchen, by default, it is website as a service. So hence the business model is also, like in Kitchen, you'll never get an IP address where you can log in and do FTP and all that, right? You get a file manager because there is no server hosting the data at all in the backend. So you never get an IP address, you get a URL, right? So here everything is as a service and you pay as you go. You pay only 5 rupees a day, right? That's the price. So you can, as a developer, you can put as many sites as you can on your portal. As long as the sites total, let's say you have 10 websites hosted in Kitchen, and 10 of them combined gets 10,000 requests in a day, you still pay rupees 5 a day. So it acts like a shared hosting for you, right? And it's an everyday billing. You recharge in the wallet, you can walk away from Kitchen any day you want, all the money is given back. Anyway, the point I'm making is there you can have 10 websites, chota websites like the static website, each having 1,000 traffic, 1,000 requests in a day, still you pay rupees 5 a day because for us it is about how much infrastructure are you using. You might use the infrastructure to support 100 websites or one website, we don't care, right? It's on the number of requests that we charge. So it is rupees 5 per day for every 10,000 requests. If you have sites which gets 20,000 requests, then that becomes 10 rupees. So that is how the billing done, right, on the platform. This is a very difficult thing to understand and gauge. The same difficulty. This is we are trying to apply the cloud pricing to the hosting, to the website development industry, right? And hence, when cloud also came in, they had really difficulty explaining why should you move out of on-premise when you exactly know your cost versus a cloud pricing where you do not know what the cost is. But trust me, cloud pricing is always optimal because if the usage increases, price goes up, usage goes down, price goes down. Overall, you pay less money because it's optimized for that spend. You get access to. We are a decently big company. Now, first as a company, 700 employees. We're decently Series B funded company. We have a set of developer advocates, developer support. If a developer is trained, we come and train you guys. And we do events and monthly meetups. If you guys find us, please drop by. We love to meet developers. Kitchen is a product for developers, not for non-tech guys at all. I'm being a bit egoistic here, but yeah, it's only for developers there. And we have a product managers, Aditya and Abhishek here. So we keep rolling out features. Okay, there's one ego feeling, right? That there's no product company built out of, there are a lot of great technology companies built out of India, but then you will not hear a new programming language or a new way of creating code coming out of India, right? So as a tech guy, I've been a coder since I was a kid. It's my ego that why can't we do this out of India, right? The advantage is we are really smart people, everything is possible. It's just that people think India is an operation-heavy country, right? Customer doesn't pay the price, the customer is not educated to understand, hence there's no point in innovating. I completely agree to that. The customer doesn't understand innovation. That doesn't mean that we won't innovate for them, right? If you're running a business to make yourself successful, that's a different story. But if you're in a business to change the world, to make an impact on the society, you better really innovate, right? So we are trying to see that how do we innovate, even if the market is not educated, usko optimization nahi samajhta hai, but still I think we should give an optimized site, right? And yeah, so that's what the business is all about. And if you have any questions, I'd love to take it now. Any questions? No questions. Yes.
You mentioned that everything what I need to do is write the HTML code.
Yes.
But if I want to write the server-side scripts?
Everything. Still, so we, in Kitchen, it's a markup language. And we have tried to simply, so there's something called web actions, just being technical here. So web action is actually, okay, have you worked on AWS? Have you worked on AWS?
No, sorry.
No. Have you know what is Lambda function? So in AWS there's a thing called Lambda function, right? Where you can write a piece of code in JavaScript and it triggers on the server side. So what we enable you is that server side logic you write in HTML, but that executes actually in the server side.
Oh.
So you as a developer need to know only one language. You do not have to know what is PHP, what is Node.js and all that. As long as you know HTML, you can write any kind of logic. For security, for data validation, for writing a for loop, for writing a filter, all that in HTML, right? So how many of you know AngularJS? No. Yeah. So you get a point, right? AngularJS is somewhere gives you a power of the for loop, data binding, which is typically a server-side thing in the client side, right? That's what with HTML5 JavaScripting, the world has moved ahead, right? So we also empower you to write every goddamn logic using HTML. So if you can tell us, we can always clear off.
How do you write a for loop in HTML?
How do you write a for loop in HTML? I'll give you not kitchen answer, I'll give you a normal answer, which today exists in the market. Use AngularJS, there's something called a k-repeat. So this is a very common problem, right? Imagine you're Facebook, right? And Facebook, I have like 2,000 friends on Facebook. But on the chat panel, it can only show 10 people on there. So if they have to download all the 2,000, but then they have to only show the online people who are online, right? So that is where the innovation has happened, where all this DOM manipulation can be done using JavaScript, right? So that is what AngularJS does. What we did is we further simplified it. Because your browser today sits on a 1 GB RAM laptop or a 1 GB RAM phone, it has huge computational power. So those logic is where we write using HTML. What happens in the back is that at the compiler, right? The kitchen has a compiler. It looks at the logic and says whether I should execute it on the browser or in the server side. So by the time the final output comes, the logic has actually run on the server side and you see the final HTML. Or in some cases, it will actually run on the browser. So you have complete conditions like for loop, if conditions, everything you write using HTML. It's called, I can show you the documentation. Yeah, the entire thing is documented.
That might not be HTML, right?
K-repeat. So in Angular, it's ng-repeat. For Kitchen, it's k-repeat. So these are common things. Sorry?
Is it HTML?
Yes, it is. So have you seen Bootstrap? Have you heard of Bootstrap? Now, Bootstrap is Bootstrap is a CSS library, but the way you use data tables, the way you write all those things, those are called HTML markups, right? So you actually have a JavaScript engine in the back, but then you implement using those markups, right? exactly what HTML does. We give you those markups. So in Indian HTML DOM, you write, k repeat in this
It is
array.
a command library.
Sorry?
It is a command library which you are doing.
It's a markup language. Bootstrap is a markup language. Like schema.org, item scope, item property, these are markup languages. So it's a markup language. I can show it to you, sir, offline.
No. I just wanted to know whether these commands, HTML commands, what you are saying,
Uh-huh.
are they generalized or it is just?
No, they're not generalized. So, for example, they are not part of the. No, I completely agree. It is not part of the W3C, so, the specifications as the HTML file they have, right? These are libraries built on top for developers to create codes faster and have control of the code. And that's Google bought Angular for $200 million just because they solved the problem of binding, right? That is not HTML specification. These are the libraries written on top of HTML. That's the power of HTML5. Yes. Any questions?